O God, we are here. Speak to us and bring us back to life. Amen. What if, for a day, we could see things as they really are? As she was dying of cancer, my friend Judy said to me, "Won't you stay a little longer? I'm afraid." And so I lingered there with her as the day slipped into the night. All her life, she had been so in control, so competent, so accomplished, so brave, always knowing just what to do. But at that moment, all that she had left was just to be herself, to be in the presence of God. And together, we experienced the gift of each other and of seeing things as they really are. Today, on Ash Wednesday, we step out of the busyness of our lives. The reality of sin confronts us all around. Engulfed by the most dramatic political changes in our life, we come to this sanctuary. We hear the truth that we too will one day die. And yet, to quote Teresa of Avila, the feeling remains that God is on the journey too. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "And remember, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Not long after she got pregnant in high school, a friend who I'm going to call Eleanor married her husband. He went to seminary, became the pastor of a church, and for 10 years they had a very happy marriage as she raised her 2 small children. But by her late 20s, she needed more. She wanted to go to college. She simply could not live as she had lived, trying to please everyone. And because of this, and although she did not want it, her husband divorced her. She decided to have nothing to do with the divorce. She didn't get a lawyer or go to court or follow what was happening. The evening the divorce was granted, her ex-husband called to tell her from a bar with party noises in the background, and she said, "I felt excluded from all the world's pleasure and fun." And for a year, she felt an excruciating pain. For her, it was like dying. Now, during this time, Eleanor memorized the poem by Rainer Maria Rilke, which imagines the voice of a person on the other side of death's gate. And the poem goes like this: "Granted, it's strange to dwell on earth no more, to give up customs one barely had time to learn, not to give roses and other things of such promise a meaning in some human future, to stop being what one was in endlessly anxious hands and ignore even one's own name like a broken toy. Strange not to go on wishing one's wishes. Strange to see all that was once so interconnected drifting in space. And death exacts a labor, a long finishing of things half done before one has that first feeling of eternity. Though the living are wrong to believe in the 2 sharp distinctions which they themselves have created." Eleanor had lost her name, and what seemed to matter and to have meaning no longer did for her. All that had seemed so interconnected was drifting in space. And in her journal, she asked herself, when will love be a freeing and not a binding? Haven't we been taught about love exactly backwards, so that we think ourselves engaged in quote-unquote self-giving love when we have as yet no self to give, when we are still carrying our needs about, looking for someone who will take responsibility for 1 or 2 of them? That difficult time felt like a kind of death. But looking back, now must have been 60 years ago, Eleanor learned a few things. First, she realized the importance of separating what she called false guilt from true guilt. False guilt arises from not recognizing that there were circumstances that we could not control. There were things that she could not have done differently. She was not the only one to influence how everything turned out. What she called true guilt, on the other hand, is a much more subtle thing, and it came out of her own distraction, inattentiveness, and poor judgment. One of the things Eleanor realized looking back is that strength is a choice. It is not that one simply is strong or weak in particular circumstances. One can choose to be strong. And Eleanor read a novel with these lines in it. How does one apologize for being a failure when it's so pointless, so redundant? When might a human being reasonably be allowed to forgo "I'm sorry" and say only to another human being, leaping past apology like an arrow, "Forgive me, I loved you"? What if for a day we came to see things as they really are? Our society fears death and constantly avoids even mentioning it. We don't even use the word, we don't say he died, we say he passed away or went to a better place. The repeated messages we hear all the time assert that if we just apply the right skincare products and eat healthy foods and exercise relentlessly, then we might even live forever. And I love Ash Wednesday because I care about the truth. I care that we really know what matters. And it's a relief to be honest and remember that we are from the dust, and to dust we shall return. Being frank about our mortality allows us to admit that God is God, and that I am not God. And on this day, we can set aside that fantasy that we are competent and can control our life. We can put down that heavy burden. We can awake from that false dream that somehow we stand apart from the brokenness of the world. We can set these things aside and we can enter the mystery of Christ. So on Ash Wednesday, we say out loud, we have fallen short. We put into words the otherwise abstract idea that we are dying. We wear ashes as a symbol to make our own mortality real to us. And doing this gives us freedom. We will not last forever. And if we do not recognize that, we will miss the miraculous beauty of the gifts we receive each day. We will be blind to the grace that we are to one another. We will not see the beauty that we experience even in brokenness. What if, for a day, we came to see things as they really are? The Trappist monk Thomas Merton wondered if there were 20 such people in the world. He described them as people who, quote, are free, who are not dominated or even influenced by any attachment to any created thing or to their own selves or to any gift of God, end quote. My friend Eleanor, she really sees. One night during that terrible year of her divorce, she was putting her 11-year-old daughter to bed when the girl said to her, "Why don't you sleep with me tonight or lie with me a while now and I'll put my arms around you and love you?" And she couldn't do this. Eleanor went upstairs to study, feeling painfully cold and alone, focused on not having a man. And then she realized just how silly this was. She was choosing to be unhappy and isolated, insisting on the kind of person who could love her when God was offering her just what she needed. So she switched off the light, and she went down and she got in bed with her daughter, and she cried while her daughter held her, warm and gentle. These days I've been thinking a lot about Judy and Eleanor and about you too. It's strange not to go on wishing one's wishes. Strange to see all that was once interconnected drifting in space. And that through our suffering, Jesus promises to be with us even to the end of the age. This Ash Wednesday, let us gratefully receive what God is giving us. May we come to see things as they really are.